Hello there, my name's Hideout and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're having a look at one of the face commanders from Commander 2021. And it's a bird. It's Breena, the Demagogue. Demagogue? 3 mana for a 1/3 with flying. It's a bird Warlock. Whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than another of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card. And you put 2/1/1 counters on a creature you control. Okay. Quite interesting, sort of a sort of political card. I hate these cards, to be quite honest with you. I just think force politics is dull and boring. Politics in Commander come from the interactions that you have, you know, the deals that you make. This is just forcing the issue, and I do not like it in the slightest. Before we go on, please subscribe to my channel. I like making these videos. I've made one for every single Strixhaven Legendary, every single Commander 2021 Legendary, and I want to carry on making them for as long as I stay alive. So please subscribe. With that said, that rather depressing and macabre note, let's move on to number 5. And in at number 5, Sarah Ascendant. So we want to make sure that our opponents have, you know, life. But also we want life. And also we want to get in there for a lot of damage. So a flying 6/6 on turn 1. Yes, okay, our opponents are going to be on low life totals and, you know, oh dear, what a disaster. But this thing can just win you games by itself. It's ridiculous. And why not win games using that life that we're making? Aetherflux Reservoir, 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life. It deals 50 damage to target creature or player. So if we've padded our life total out and then we just play this, even though we're not going to be storming off and making a ton of life, we can just kill our opponents, which is, you know, pretty solid, I'd say. To go along with that, there's Felidar Sovereign, 6 mana for a 4/6 with Vigilance and Lifelink. Lifelink, ooh, wow. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. That's it. You just win the game. Really anticlimactic and dull way to win, but you're playing white. So why not, eh? Then Test of Endurance is an enchantment version of that. 4 mana for an enchantment. The beginning of your upkeep, if you have 50 or more life, you win the game. These are really dull ways to win, but if your opponents can't remove them, well, especially the Felidar Sovereign, if they can't remove a creature that's, you know, 6 mana, come on, play more removal. They can't really be that angry at you. To go along with this, we've got a couple of life gain sort of synergy cards here. Well of Lost Dreams, 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you've gained. If you do, draw X cards. Really cool, you know, we're going to be getting some incidental life gain from life linkers and stuff like that. And why don't we draw some cards with him? Ajani, Strength of the Pride, is a 4 mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. Who's an Ajani? Well, you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control plus the number of planeswalkers you control for the +1. So if you've got a bunch of little dudes, we're going to get a ton of life. -2 creates a 2/2 white cat soldier token named Ajani's Pridemate with whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on it. Really quite cool as well. But the main reason you want to play him, 0, if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, exile him and each artifact and creature your opponents control. That's a really back-breaking mass board wipe there. And you can just play, usually we're going to be on 15 or more through all the life link shenanigans that we've got going on. And this is a great way to finish out the game. Ely, Eternal Pilgrim, is a 2 mana 2/3 with Death Touch. Good stat line to start with. You can pay 1, sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to sacrifice creature's toughness. Or you can pay Orzhov and 1, sacrifice another creature, exile target non-land permanent, activate this ability only if you have at least 10 or more life than your starting life total. So 2 great abilities there, way to gain life and also a way to just remove anything that's a problem. Excellent cards. Excellent. And they're going to work really well with our life gain strategy. In at number 4, we've got Exquisite Blood. So we're very much about life gain and life loss. So Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood is a classic combination. 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So just for attacking in, and you know, thanks to the politics and all that sort of stuff, we're going to be, hoping that our opponents attack our opponents. Cool. And then Sanguine Bond, 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. These two in combination just kill your opponent. Simple as that. Really, really good. We're going to be gaining life, so we can just chip away at our opponents like that. Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, is a 3 mana 1/3 Vampire Cleric. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So again, works excellently with all of our life link sort of shenanigans. Then for 5 mana, creatures you control gain life link until end of turn. So we can force through a ton of damage and gain a ton of life, and then ping everyone to death. Then Vizkopa Guildmage is a 2 mana 2/2. Pay 3, tag creature gains lifelink until end of turn. Woohoo! Then pay 3, whenever you gain life this turn, each opponent loses that much life. Wonderful, wonderful little bits of synergy there. Which brings me on to number 3, arising out of the grave. Congregate. So, we want to gain a ton of life, but we also want our opponents to gain a ton of life so that our opponents will swing in and kill them, draw cards, we'll put counters on stuff. Yada yada yada. Congregate is a really cool card for this. 4 mana for an instant. Target player gains 2 life for each creature on the battlefield. So in a pinch, we can target ourselves, gain, a metric ton of life, but we can point this in an opponent and say, oh, look, they're on the throne. Attack them. Then our other opponents will just swing at us because we're pissing about. So Wall of Shards is a great way of doing this as well. 2 mana for a 1/8. What a defender that is. With flying, and it's got cumulative upkeep, an opponent gains 1 life. So first turn 1, then 2, so on and so forth. We can just point that life gain all over the place and make sure our opponents are on a higher life total than anyone else. To go along with this, 2 classics here. Well, Swords to Plowshares is a bit more classic than Luminate Primordial, who's a 7 mana 4/7 with Vigilance. When he enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls, and that player gains life equal to its power. So when he comes in, he does 3 Swords to Plowshares, which is a 1 mana instant. Exile target creature is controlled against life equal to its power. Really quite cool. Control the board, and these are just powerful cards that you want to play anyway. Nice bits of removal. Which brings me on to number 2. And in at number 2, we've got Axis of Mortality. 6 mana for an enchantment. The bloke holding 2 roses going, mwah. He's like he's cooking. Mwah. Except he's decimating some of the life total and there's blood all over him. Which, is actually quite similar to cooking, really, isn't it? At the beginning of your upkeep, you may have 2 target players exchange life totals. Quite cool. We can make sure that someone's on the throne in terms of life, and hopefully our opponents go after them. Or, if we manage to get our life total way down low, there's a lot of pay life sort of things in black and white, then we can transfer our life total over to someone else's. A couple of cards that are very similar to this. Soul Conduit, 6 mana artifact, pay 6 and tap. 2 target players exchange life totals. It's exactly the same thing, except you're paying 12 mana for it. Oh dear. Then, Reverse the Sands, 8 mana for a sorcery. Redistribute any number of players' life totals. So, you just move life totals all over the gap for 8 mana. And if we've paid a bunch of life, why don't we bring everyone down to our level with Repay in Kind? 7 mana sorcery. Each player's life total becomes the lowest life total among all players. So say if we paid a ton of life into Necropotence or something like that, we go down to 1, then we Repay in Kind, everyone else is at 1, and then hopefully we can just kill them from there. If we can't, well, oh dear. Which brings me on to number 1. So with all these sort of things that are making our opponents gain life, why don't we kill them using them? False Cure is a 2 black instant. Until end of turn, whenever a player gains life, that player loses 2 life for each 1 life he or she gained. So if we point something at someone, make them gain 20 life, they're actually going to be losing 40 life, which is really, really quite powerful, isn't it? So Beacon of Immortality is a great way of doing this. 6 mana for an instant, double target player's life total. Shuffle Beacon of Immortality into its owner's library. So we double someone's life total, so they get, say they're on 40, they're going to gain 40, but actually they end up losing 80, which is really quite cool. And both of these are instants, so you can just whap this out and go, wah, and then everyone loses the game. Tainted Sigil, 3 mana for an artifact, tap, sacrifice it. You gain life equal to the total life lost by all players this turn. This is really cool, you know, with our sort of pay life sort of shenanigans that we can have going on. And, you know, we can end up gaining a ton of life from this. Which brings me on to Tainted Remedy. 3 mana for an enchantment. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. So if you point the Beacon of Immortality at someone and Tainted Remedies on the field, they die. Really, really good. Any sort of doubling of life totals kills them in 1. And those are my top 5 cards for this garbage commander. I do not like it, but managed to carve out sort of an interesting sort of niche, I think. It's just the politics. I just find them so boring and dull if they're forced. If you're just manipulating people without their consent, which sounds horrible when you say it, but that's when politics are fun. You know, you really take advantage of everyone. Say, oh, you know, I'll maybe think about not killing you. And then you've lied to them, just like any politician does. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and, you know, like, comment, send out a carrier pigeon to someone and tell them to watch a YouTube video. I'll see you around. Bye.